to another episode of The Truth. My name is Matt Rising, and before we begin, I would like for you to subscribe to our official YouTube page. Sorry for that, for my heavy breathing. I don't know, probably, but I'll be alright. Don't worry. But please subscribe to our official YouTube page. That way we could spread more truth to the whole world. So thank you in advance. Now let's get to our subject. We're not going to do a sermon today. We're just going to do a study on which Bible translation would be best for you. Now before I begin, I want to say that there are lots of Bible translations that are accurate, and there are lots of Bible translations that aren't. So let me say that again. There are modern Bible translations, there are Bible translations that are accurate, and there are modern Bible translations that are not. But there's modern translations that are accurate. You know, I'm gonna get, you know, don't get me wrong, I may be criticized for that, but if you accuse of modern Bible translation, I'm not talking about all of them, I'm talking about the accurate modern Bible translations. If you accuse an accurate modern Bible translation, you're like, it's like saying Jesus is a liar. And Jesus is not a liar. Jesus is the way, the truth, and life. Now I want to show you. I want to tell you these. There are a lot of Bible translations. Right in front of me is different Bible translations. When we get into our study, this is going to be more of a study this week. So I'm going to name that message entitled, "Which Bible Translation is Accurate?" or "Which Bible Translation Fits You?" I might come up with the title later, but before I begin, I want to say there are lots of translations out there. And calling an accurate modern Bible translation false is like saying Jesus is a liar. And Jesus is not a liar. And again, I might get a lot of hate on that, or I might get criticized for that, but I'm telling the truth. If you call an accurate modern Bible translation a false Bible, then there's something wrong with you. Because there are modern Bible translations that are accurate, and there are modern Bible translations that aren't. The King James Version is an accurate translation, but it was written in the 17th century. And we don't speak that language anymore. But we're gonna get deep into our study this week. We're gonna be talking about which Bible translation fits best. I'm going to go over these 5 translations. 4 of them I have in front of me. Actually, I'm going to tell you the 10 translations of the Bible that are accurate, that I recommend you read. And I'm going to tell you Bible translations that I want you to avoid, that you need to avoid. So first off, we're going to talk about the Bible translations that I recommend you read, because the ones that I recommend you read are accurate, and I recommend the accurate ones because you get more and more into the Word. Because the accurate ones are more based off the original texts. We got three categories of Bibles here. The first one is the formal, or the word for word. Which is the more literal translation. They are very literal, and they're very literal. And the literal translations stays as close as word for word as possible. Second would be the thought for thought or dynamic translations. The dynamic translations are more readable, thus not formal, not word for word, but they're less formal, but they still contain, they're still based off the original Greek and Hebrew texts. And then finally, we got the paraphrase. Now, the paraphrase is known as the least of the three. Now, don't get me wrong. If you go to a Bible bookstore and you get a Bible that has paraphrased on it, that it doesn't mean it's corrupt. But what I'm telling you is that it's not as accurate as the translations that are based off the Hebrew and Greek texts. Jesus said in Matthew 24:35, "Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away." God gave us His words, and every single Bible translation, well, most of the Bible translations that are the ones that are accurate. There are Bible translations that are not as accurate as the ones that I'm about to mention. And there are, first off, we're going to be talking about the 10 most, we're going to be talking about 10 translations that I need you to read. There are 10 translations that I recommend you read, and there are 10 translations, and there are a few translations that I want you to avoid. Alright? But first off, let's talk about the ones I recommend. The ones that are more accurate. There are Bible translations that I highly recommend you read. And I'm gonna tell you the 10 of them right now. First off, what is considered to be the most accurate Bible translation is the New American Standard Bible, or the NASB. Now, what you see right here is, it says Holy Bible, New American Standard Bible, or NASB. This is considered to be the most accurate Bible translation available today. It's got a word-for-word meaning, and it's modern, but it has a high accuracy rating. I recommend you read that translation. And the reason being the most accurate Bible translation is because it's considered to be the most literal translation available today. And the New American Standard Bible is by far one of the best translations out there. Number two, second on my list would be the King James Version, or the KJV. Now, what I'm holding right now is a King James Version of the Bible, or a KJV. Now, there are lots of words that are pretty accurate. This is an accurate translation as well. But the problem is with the King James Version is that it was written in the 17th century English. It was written in the 17th century back in 1611, and it was written known as Elizabethan English, in which we don't speak that language anymore. But not because it's not accurate. It is accurate. It's just not as readable as the other translations. But I might get criticized for just saying that. But the problem with the King James Version is that it was written in the 17th century English. Now, I have no problem with the King James Version. I've been reading King James a lot, and I had a King James Version when I was 18, and I still have one. I still do have one. It's the King James Version, and this one right here is a good translation to read. I would definitely recommend you read that. Third on my list would be the English Standard Version, or the NASB. Now, this is basically what I read mostly. Now, the NRSV has easier to read words, and the reason why it's successful is because it's got a traditional sound to it. It's easier to read, plus it's a very good it's a really good translation. I would also recommend you read that. Fourth on my list is a dynamic translation that I had when I was 18 as well, or 19. The New International Version, or the NIV. Now, the NIV is considered to be the most criticized Bible translation out there. The reason why it was criticized is because of its textual basis and its 2011 update. And the reason why it was also criticized is because how successful it is. Now, it's got readability, but the 2011 update, the reason why the 2011 update is criticized so much is because it's got gender inclusive terms in the 2011 NIV than the 1984 one. Even though the NIV is pretty controversial, it's still an accurate translation. Number 5 on my list would be the New King James Version. Now, it's kind of like I might get criticized for that again, but it's kind of like the King James, but but it's different. It's the New King James Version, or the NKJV. It's considered to be the easiest to read. And the reason being is that is because they tried to, I might get criticized for that, but they wanted to make the Bible more readable. It's got modern English in it, but it's a really good Bible translation, and it's considered to be the easiest to read. Number 6 on that list would be the New Living Translation. It's a good translation for new believers, and it's a really good Bible translation if you're a new Christian. Plus, it's got a high readability, and it's pretty accurate too. And the last few I'm not going to describe, but they're still accurate. Number 7 is the Revised Standard Version. Number 8 is the Christian Standard Bible. Number 9 is the New Revised Standard Version. Now, those 10 translations that I just told you are very accurate. I highly recommend reading these translations. Now, I'm gonna tell you a few translations that you need to avoid, because there are translations that you need to avoid too. The first translation that you need to avoid is the Message Bible. The Message Bible is not an accurate Bible translation at all. Let me say that again. The Message Bible is not an accurate Bible translation at all. It's a paraphrase written by one author who thinks he could translate the Bible, would be the author's thoughts of the Bible, and the message would be the author's thoughts of the Bible. And there are false teachers, like hyper-charismatic teachers that promote the Message Bible. I do not recommend that. The next translation that you need to avoid is the Good News Translation. Now, I might get criticized for it, but the Good News Translation is by far written by I think the American Bible Society, and it's got a dynamic equivalence. But the reason being that you need to avoid this translation is because I've heard that Bethel Church, Bill Johnson of Bethel Church endorses the Good News Bible. I do not recommend that. The third one that I recommend you avoiding it. The third one that I don't recommend you read is the Passion Translation. It is not a good translation either. It is actually a paraphrase that is associated with the New Apostolic Reformation. And I do not recommend that. Fourth on that list would be the Contemporary English Version, or the CEV. Now, the CEV is a dynamic equivalent Bible, but it's a little watered down. It's a little more watered down than most Bibles. So So I do not recommend that translation. And then finally, the Bible translation that you need to avoid is the Living Bible, or the TLB. The Living Bible is a paraphrase, and it says paraphrase on that. So I don't know why I put that on that list, but I do not recommend that. But the Message Bible is actually a paraphrase translation, so I do not recommend that. It doesn't mean it's corrupt. I'm just telling you to be careful. If you do read the Living Bible, you might have to proceed with caution. Otherwise, don't use it at church, or don't use it while preaching. I do not recommend that. But I recommend you read the accurate translations like the ESV, the NIV, the King James Version, and the NASB. And rather than just the paraphrase translations. Because paraphrases are more what the author says about the Bible. And it's not based off the original text. Unless you got a Bible that's based off the original text, you don't have a Bible at all. Unless the Bible is based off the original text, it's not a Bible. The Bible has to be based off the original Greek and Hebrew text. Otherwise, it's not a Bible. In conclusion, I want to say simply this. Let me read Psalm 119, verse 105 in my Bible. Yeah. Psalm 119, verse 105. Here we go. Psalm 119, 105. Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. So, this is our light. This is the lamp to our feet and the light to our path. This here is a Bible translation. I read one of those Bible translations here. All these translations that I have are accurate. At least all of them that I have in my collection. Well, that's going to do it for today. And as always, in John 8:32, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. God bless you and have an amazing